We are live, everyone. It is Saturday night, and we're having a little bit of fun. We're kicking the tires on using technology in a way that may work very well, very well, or it might not work at all. I have a feeling it's going to be a successful test. My name is Mitch Jackson. This is brought to you by the Streaming.Lawyer and my marketing club on Clubhouse, which is marketing and social media for lawyers. And what we are doing, you guys, is I'm going live on Clubhouse right this second, and we will see how things work out this evening. This is going to be fun. We're going to have live Q&A with our audience and friends on the Clubhouse platform. We're pushing this out to Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, a couple of different blogs, and 4 or 5 different Facebook groups and pages. And I'm curious to see how the audio does play out on the various platforms. It's good to see everybody. We are just cranking some things up at this end, so please bear with me. And, another Saturday night on Clubhouse playing around with some new technology. I think you guys are going to like this, especially if you're interested when it's appropriate, when it's the right time to do so, especially when we have interviews, to broadcast our Clubhouse rooms across the socials, whether it's YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook groups, Facebook pages. Right now, I'm also broadcasting over to Amazon Live and my global community over there, this particular Facebook room. So I'm curious to see how the audio is playing. I am using an Anchor Bluetooth speaker to connect my Clubhouse audio with my Yeti USB mic. I'm going to do a sound check right now on Twitter. I'm curious to see how this sounds, so bear with me. If you'd like to jump up on stage and chat with me about what we're doing. Oh my goodness, this sounds fantastic, you guys. I'm doing a sound check on Twitter and I am loving what I'm hearing. So this seems to be working really well, you guys. So what's going on? What am I doing? What we're doing is there's so much great content here on, hey John, it's good to see you. So much great content here in Clubhouse. And once in a while, when I get someone, for example, like John on stage, it's really too bad sometimes when we're done with Clubhouse and the room's gone and there's no recording. Nothing's been recorded following the terms of service agreement with Clubhouse. And so I've been trying to figure out a way, when it's appropriate, when I have guests on the show, is there a way to not only push this out to all the different social media platforms, but also create a recorded event that does not conflict with the TOS of Clubhouse and allows my audience, my friends, clients, people in my masterminds to digest, listen, and take notes from the Clubhouse rooms after the fact. And I think I figured it out. So I'll run through it real quick with you. It's only going to take me a couple of minutes, and then I would love to invite any of you to raise your hand and jump up on stage, and we will check. Hey, Joel, hang on a second. And we will check the audio of a guest up here on the platform. So here's what I'm doing, everybody. And Joel, I did invite you up. I'll be done in just a second. Here's what we're doing. We're creating our traditional Clubhouse room like we always do. And then what we're doing is we're creating an event in StreamYard, StreamYard. Joel, I'm going to go ahead and mute your mic real quick. Bear with me, just so we don't get any feedback. Thank you for jumping up on stage. I'll unmute you in just a second. And we're creating a StreamYard event. StreamYard is like Zoom, but the beautiful thing about StreamYard is it does a couple of things really well. Number one, it allows you with a single click to broadcast your live video across all of your social media platforms. So you can broadcast via StreamYard to YouTube, LinkedIn, various Facebook groups and pages, Twitter, all the major platforms. You can embed the YouTube code within your blog post. You can also push over to Amazon Live, which is what I'm doing right now. If you want to see what this live audio feed looks like over on Amazon Live, just go to amazon.com/shop/Mitch Jackson, and you'll see what I'm talking about. If you want to see what this live audio broadcast looks like on Twitter, for example, just go to my Twitter feed at Mitch Jackson, and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Anyway, we're using the StreamYard technology, which captures the audio from, in my case, my Yeti X mic, my USB mic. Super simple to use. I don't want things to get too complicated. Now, what we're doing is once we get this set up, we get our StreamYard event set up, we're uploading a still photo. So instead of broadcasting a video, the still photo you see is something that we've uploaded. And for those of you watching right now, I can switch the photo like I did just there to show the Anchor Power Conference Bluetooth speaker. I can come back to the original picture. I can switch to video. I can really switch to anything I want. But once again, I'm just kind of testing the tire, kicking the tires right now. And so what's happening is the audio from Clubhouse is coming through the Anchor, which I'm showing right now on the broadcast, the Anchor Bluetooth speaker, which the USB mic's picking up, sending it into StreamYard, and then sending it across all the socials. So that's kind of the plan. Super easy. If it's too complicated, I'm just not going to use it. And I've got all the specs here on this particular Anchor speaker. But what I would like to do is, Joel, since you were kind enough to raise your hand and jump up on stage, I want to ask you to please unmute and join me here. And first of all, Joel, because I'm not technically recording Clubhouse, but the beautiful thing about this is all of the different broadcasts across all the different platforms, they are going to be available and recorded for people to view on those respective platforms. So I would like your permission, if you unmute, to record you in this Clubhouse room. So the ball's in your court, Joel. Are you okay with that?
Sure. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And actually, I was really curious about that side of it, knowing that you have legal background. And
that's how I handled it.
conditions and where they're coming from in Clubhouse. Yep.
That was it, Joel. So
Yep.
one of the things that's interesting is, first of all, what I want to do while you're here, and we can talk about the legalities, I'd be happy to, but what I'd like to do is I'm going to put my headphone on, and I'd like to see how your audio comes across on, for example, my Twitter feed. That was the challenge, was just
Sure.
holding the phone up next to the Bluetooth mic. And maybe in order to do that, can you share with all of us, a little bit about who you are, what you enjoy doing, and how you're using the Clubhouse platform? And that'll give me a chance to check out the audio. Does that work for you?
Sure. No problem. So I'm Joel Foner, Possibilities Coach. I do a variety of work with folks in both corporate and private settings, really helping folks in interactions that are problematic, sometimes a lot of time working with management and leaders, helping their teams to do better, helping them to do better with their teams. On a personal front, I live up in the Northeast, out in a place that's looks like it's in the woods, but is about 5 miles away from a local mall. And really happy that today it was about 70 out for the first time in quite a while. Which is great. I'm wondering if Mitch is hearing this okay on his other socials.
We are, Joel.
In terms of club?
Very well.
Okay,
Thank you for sharing. Go,
right.
Please continue.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, by the way, in terms of the rig that I'm using, I have sort of on the simple side, I have a bunch of recording studio background, and there are some other ways we've been doing Clubhouse Connects. But this is just a little Movo VXR Pro. It's just like a mini shotgun mic that I hook up to my phone with a headset in it. So how does it sound compared to a normal phone feed?
It sounds fantastic, Joel. Your audio is great. Now, what I did is I clicked the 3 little dots up on the top, and I changed my audio quality to high. Are you able to do that without being a moderator? Were you able to do that too?
Yes. And as a matter of fact, if you have, like on an iPhone, you have to plug into the Lightning port on the bottom. I believe when you do a digital connection like that on the bottom of the phone, it pretty much insists that you set it to high quality if it's gonna work once you're in as a speaker, even though it'll work as audience without that.
Gotcha. It's interesting. First of all, thank you for coming up. That means the world to me. The Anchor came in today via Amazon, and I wanted to play around a little bit with it. And if it's too complicated, Joel, because I still am a full-time trial lawyer, even though I've built out my brand on social and I love meeting people on the digital platforms, I'm a trial lawyer,
right?
And if this stuff gets too complicated, it's just not going to happen. And it's not really not because it's beyond my pay grade. It's just that I only have so much time to set stuff up and break things down. And I wanted something that was super fast, right? Like The mic you're
Right,
using,
right.
I have that mic. I use that mic when I go
Oh, okay.
live, also because it doesn't require an extra battery. You just plug it into the bottom of your iPhone,
Exactly.
and it's sweet. I
Yep.
mean, but
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the challenge for me on Clubhouse is I totally appreciate Steve's in the audience. Steve, I hope I didn't get you in trouble tonight on the West Coast. Steve is balancing being in today's room with keeping his better half happy. Steve, I'll bring you up. Ah, that's too funny. And Steve, I love it, man. Thanks for your support. But what I wanted to do, hey, Steve, it's good to see you. You are a brave man. I see who wears the pants in your
We
family.
won't tell.
I I I am a brave man indeed, but this is a good program. Good to be here. Thanks for doing it.
Absolutely, Steve. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. So, what I need to do, the way my life works is it needs to be, down and dirty, fast and quick. But also, I want a reasonably good level of quality in anything I'm doing. I always shoot for about 80%, 80% on social. Otherwise, I'd never get anything done. And what's happening is I've had some amazing guests in some of my rooms, some of them, world-class experts. They drop value bombs, Joel and Steve. And when the room's over, it's over. And sometimes I talk to them, before. It's like, Mitch, if you want to record it, it's totally okay with me. And I said, well, we're not set up to do that with Clubhouse. And so I started playing around and kicking the tires, you guys. And this seems to work really well. I got to say, when I listen to the audio over on Amazon Live, over on Twitter, I've just checked the Facebook groups and pages. It sounds pretty good to me. I did this with Brian Fanzo. A lot of you know Fanzo. He goes by his last name here on Clubhouse. Brian's an old friend of mine. We go way back to the early live streaming days. And Brian and I did this yesterday. But what I did is I used a Archon mount, desk mount, and I just clipped my iPhone into it and pushed it close to the USB mic. And it did sound that way. It just sounded like Brian was at the other end of a tin can connected to StreamYard with a string, right? And while you can hear what
anytime you want to connect a mic, right? Any mic to speaker out in open air is going to sound like that almost no matter what they are. Yep.
Yeah. But Brian dropped so much good information. It was really a good interview. So we went ahead and kept it up, and we even ripped the audio and converted it into a podcast, which went out earlier today. But this is the first time I've tried using Anchor, you guys, in a similar fashion. And the audio right now sounds almost perfect, at least with the different social channels that I've just checked while Joel was kind enough to be speaking. Yeah. So with the Anchor, you guys, I've got the ultra clear portable conference speakerphone. It says on the back, 6 mics for superior. Look, we're talking $120. Okay. I think there's another one for 90, but this one ran me about 120, I think 130 with tax. 6 mics for superior voice pickup. DSP reduces ambient noise, which means, you guys, if there was a conference going on in the other side of my office, it would filter that out and focus on what I'm saying and what you're saying through this Bluetooth. Voice broadcasting indicator light, which I'm watching. Charges your devices because it's got a couple of different attachments. It's got the USB-C. It's got the Bluetooth 5. Compatible with leading platforms. 360 voice coverage with 5-meter range. Smart voice enhancement technology. 24-hour talk time. So you plug it in and you're good for a couple of days. Connect to a PC via USB cable, which I have not tried yet. Lightweight and compact. It's slightly larger, you guys, than a Krispy Kreme donut. And frankly, it doesn't weigh much more than a donut. So it's great, I think, for traveling if we ever get the green light to hit the ground to travel and start speaking or attending conventions again. So yeah, this is cool, you guys. I'm glad that you're allowing me to test it out. And I do want to invite anyone to jump up on stage and share your thoughts. If you have questions about the legalities, I can share my 2 cents worth. Hey, Steve, so does it sound okay to you? And Steve, have you jumped over to any of my other platforms to independently check the quality of the audio?
The sound is incredibly good. Really, really good. I have not jumped over to other platforms yet, though, but this sounds really, really good.
do me a favor and bounce over to Twitter, since you and I are over there all the time, and you'll see in my Twitter feed, you may have to refresh. You'll see what looks like a video, but it'll be the still, and it's basically just the live audio recording. If you could hit unmute the volume and listen to it for me, Steve, I'd really appreciate it. I'm just curious as to how the quality is. And maybe while you're doing that, Joel and I can have a conversation about how he's enjoying Clubhouse and what his favorite rooms are.
I'll do it right now. Good.
Sure. And actually, if you're interested, Mitch, I've got a couple of other approaches too for, again, the same kind of simple how to connect up without a major studio. Happy to connect off the room and go through some of those and see if they fit with you. This speaker sounds like it's a great deal, by the way.
Oh, absolutely, Joel. Share, if you have some ideas, share them right now. I'm all ears. This is great.
Yeah, let me see if I'm going to have to walk through the house here because I'm not remembering the model names right offhand. I wasn't expecting, actually expecting that
okay.
we'd be going through the details. So let me see.
Maybe 30,000 foot level.
Yeah, so 30,000 foot level. I found a few little devices. Some of them come out of actually the guitar and musical instrument business, where they have the right connectors on them so that you could plug in, like with the little Movo mic. Basically, you plug one end into the phone, the other end into a mic, and then it's got a jack for a headset or earbuds. And they're in the 30 to 50 buck range. So depending if you have the right kind of mic that'll plug right into them, then that gives you a really quick way to get from here to there. There's another one that's in around the 50-ish range that if you have one of those Studio XLR mics, plugs in the same way. And then there's the much higher end stuff. I've got some more studio stuff in the other room that I plug a console in. But this little rig with the Movo and the phone is just, I drop it onto a tripod, and just whenever I'm out wherever, it's a quick and easy way to sound better than a phone and hear better.
So here's my question, Joel, just in case I'm missing something.
Sure.
Connecting our iPhones to some type of external mic setup, whether it's what I'm using with Anchor, whether it's what you described, or maybe a Rodecaster type of setup. I know Guy Kawasaki is big time on that, right? That's one thing. But the challenge is StreamYard is, for example, I've got my phone in front of me, but StreamYard is on the laptop or desktop at the end of my desk. And the challenge is the way we get the audio into StreamYard is through our USB mics. So I literally have this Anchor that's connected to my iPhone Bluetooth 4 inches away from the hot USB, mic, which is what StreamYard's picking up the audio from. Any thoughts with an easier or more efficient way to pump or push that audio into StreamYard, which is like Zoom, by the way. When I say StreamYard, you guys, think of Zoom if you're not familiar with StreamYard. It's getting that audio into Zoom or into StreamYard. What are your thoughts?
Got it. Yeah, sure. And I've used Restream, which is not exactly the same thing, but for multi-platform. And I guess, so these little boxes I'm talking about, some of them actually have USB connections. So you hook it right up into the computer the way that you've been talking about. Some of them are designed where they're supposed to plug into what's called a mic preamp, which is you can get little cheap mic preamps. And some have an 1/8 inch plug, like a regular headset plug. So you could plug it into a mic input on your computer. So this stuff, really what I was playing around with those was the same deal, was plugging it into a computer. And I was looking for ways that didn't require buying a $700 or $750 Rodecaster for people who don't want to go that direction, but still want to hook up better audio into their computer.
And that was the challenge. This seems to be working. I got a message from Darcy Hall, who is a fellow Clubhouse member, and she messaged me over on Amazon Live, which, by the way, you guys, if you're not set up over there, it's pretty sweet. Darcy says, "Hi, Mitch. I'm listening live on Clubhouse and watching here on Amazon. There is a slight delay of the live Clubhouse audio to the Amazon feed." And Darcy, I will tell you that when we go live on StreamYard, once again, you guys, it's kind of like Zoom, but it's got a few more bells and whistles. There seems to be a 10 to 15 second delay when it pushes to Facebook or then Periscope, now Twitter Live, or any of the other platforms. I think what you're experiencing, Darcy, is that 10 to 15 second delay that we're experiencing anyway. But for everyone just watching this on Amazon Live, to them, it's coming across instantly and in real time. Here's the verdict, though. Steve jumped back in. Steve, what's the verdict? How did it sound on Twitter?
Exactly the same. Really, really good.
Ooh,
Awesome.
ooh, I like that.
Oh, and by the way, Mitch, to your point about the delay, I mean, I've done a bunch of YouTube streaming, and basically, any of those video streaming platforms, they seem to have this delay it's between 10 and 30 seconds, sort of depending on the day and time of day, between the second you say something and when it actually shows up to viewers on the other end.
Gotcha. One reason when we go live on StreamYard, we have a 30-second video that we start our shows off with music. And in the video, it says on the screen, there's a countdown button, 30, 29, 28. It also announces the show. For example, if I had my dear friend Alicia Kinchlow, who's down in the audience as a guest, Alicia's a gifted lawyer out of Philadelphia, great speaker. If we're talking about communication skills in the courtroom, for example, we incorporate that 30-second preview to accommodate the delay as it starts to feed across all the socials, so that when I click a button and there's Alicia with her smile and me on the screen, everyone's now connected. They're not missing out on the show. And that's something, if you guys start using this technology, you may want to start doing, is have that 20 or 30-second preview leading into your Clubhouse event or your Clubhouse show. So that's kind of interesting. On the legalities of this, everyone, I went through the terms of service agreement. I went through the privacy agreements. I went through the terms of use agreement. There's 3 primary agreements with Clubhouse. Totally respect where they're coming from. And 2 thumbs up to the lawyers that did help Clubhouse with these agreements. I think they're very well written. They're the types of agreements I would prepare for my clients if I decided that's what I wanted to do. I'm a full-time litigator and trial lawyer, which is where my passion lies. But having said that, people need to understand there's no need for us to put recorded or the red dot in the title or caption to our rooms. That's not a requirement as of the last time I looked. And what you do need to do, though, is get permission from people who do come up on stage. They use the term speakers on stage to record them. So as I did with Joel, I just asked him, Joel, we're broadcasting out live. Joel said, fine. Steve, I didn't ask you, but I know you're going to give me 2 thumbs up, so I'm not too worried about that. As a matter of fact, Steve, if you tap and tap your mic, I'll consider that consent to record you when you're on stage. You can get consent, you guys, in more ways than one. But I think probably the best way to do it is let your room know every 5 or 10 minutes what you're doing. We're broadcasting live across Facebook groups, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. I should have and could have embedded this in my blogs and websites using the YouTube code. And then we're also pushing over to just a huge audience, you guys, over on Amazon Live. And I've got the Anchor product prominently displayed. What's kind of cool about Amazon Live, a couple of friends of mine turned me on to it, and DM me if you guys want to be in touch with them. They're my Amazon Live experts, Jim Fuchs and Chris. Is when somebody clicks on Anchor, let's just say they're not even aware of this show, but they're looking around for a desktop, Bluetooth, iPhone compatible, state-of-the-art, speakerphone that they can use, because a lot of us are still working from home most of the time. What happens is this video that we're pushing out right now, it's displaying beneath the Anchor product, which is pretty cool. So if you go to Amazon Live and you click on this Anchor product, especially the one I've got linked on my broadcast, you'll see this live video below it. And you can imagine from a marketing and branding standpoint how you can tap into the power to help people, to answer questions, and to build your brand. The other interesting thing about this is if someone clicks on the Anchor PowerConf, C-O-N-F, Bluetooth speaker and goes to that page, you know how Amazon serves up all the other related items below. Well, my understanding is if anybody clicks and purchases any of those related items for up to 24 hours, your Amazon influencer account, I think that's what they call it, that's what they call me, is credited with the commission on that sale. So that's kind of cool technology, especially when you look at how big and how vast the Amazon community is spread around the world and with all the different time zones. Most of you know, like in my legal minds, my mindset on this thing is to try to give the lawyers in my mastermind the ability to maximize the time they spend here on Clubhouse. So, for example, I've got a great friend coming on in about 2 weeks. His name's Tom Martin. Tom Martin is probably the most experienced, most well-known Colorado River in the Grand Canyon rafting expert and hiking expert on the planet. Tom and I grew up next to each other. In fact, we purchased our first hang glider together. And Tom's an old, elementary, middle school, and high school buddy, University of Arizona friend. And his dad was a very well-known paleontologist with the University of Arizona. Anyway, what Tom and another friend of ours, Pete, did is they put together a raft made out of reeds, the types of reeds that naturally grow next to the Colorado. And they spent 30 days going from one end to the other to show that, I believe it's the Hopi Indian, if I'm not mistaken, 1,200 to 2,000 years before John Powell's first quote unquote trip down the Colorado River. What they're learning, and I think what they're going to talk about, is how the local citizens of that area were probably traveling down the Colorado River, hundreds, if not thousands of years before the Powell trip. And so Tom and Pete are going to be on. We're going to be live streaming that via Zoom, but we're also going to piggyback it into a Clubhouse room and do it just the opposite. They're going to be on Zoom or on StreamYard, but we're going to pump the audio into Clubhouse. So really a couple of amazing guys that I think are probably going to be changing the history of rafting on the Colorado River. And that's the kind of stuff, you guys, that I want to make sure we have recorded, because once people like this share, it's fun to have it recorded. It's fun to be able to share it after the fact with our family and friends. So that'll be a cool room, and I'll share the actual date and the time once we finalize some things on all of my social platforms, but specifically Twitter. But having said all that, Joel, jump back in. Definitely. What else is going on?
So I actually had a quick question for you. We talked about, by the way, thank you. It's really interesting to hear, because there's all these tales about what you need to do to be legally okay on Clubhouse doing this. I come out of the photo video world where, you ask somebody just like you did, you get it on camera, on record. But I'm seeing a lot of people put it in the titles, and I was actually concerned about that, because then, they're not actually getting permission. But in any case, with that aside, I'm curious about transcription. So for instance, if we then pull the sound off of here to another platform and or record it, and then transcribe it, is publishing a transcript something you need any other kind of permission for, or once somebody has given you permission, you're okay?
Well, Joel, I'm glad you brought that up. I think probably what would be a good idea, on a real show where people may try to monetize it. You might have a well-known celebrity on. I was in a Clubhouse room the night Katie Couric came in, and she was nice enough to invite me up because I turned her on to Clubhouse back in the day. So that was really cool. But if they were talking about her new show or a movie that she's in or something like that, you would definitely want to document the terms and conditions of who can or cannot use everything relating to the Clubhouse room, including audio, including distribution, including transcriptions. That's a really good point. And it would be a good idea for anyone to think about, and I did a room last week. I'm coming out with a blog post on Monday. It's 10 legal documents. And seriously, everyone, Joel knows nothing about this. He didn't set me up, but Joel, we're rolling out.
No. We have nothing up my sleeve. We didn't.
This
talk
is legit.
the show.
But this is what I like about Clubhouse, because you have like these real-time, information opportunities. I did a room last week for creatives on Clubhouse, and it was titled something like 10 legal documents, 10 legal business documents that all creators, entrepreneurs, and business owners, online business owners, should probably be using, in their transactions, including here on Clubhouse. And a couple of those documents relate to what you just said, Joel. When you have a guest on, having an agreement as to what the scope and course is with respect to the audio, the written, can I commercialize it? Who owns the copyright? All of these things, yes, it would be a really good idea to confirm all of the above in writing. And you guys can use these documents as a checklist as to what you should or shouldn't be doing. And I will tell you, Joel, one of the platforms that we use, and I'm a brand ambassador for, it's called Lately AI. It's a platform that, for example, would allow me to take a video and upload it into the platform, or take the audio from this show and upload it into the platform. And Steve knows about this. He's heard me talk about it. And what Lately will do is it'll use its AI to create anywhere from 25 to maybe 125 potential social media posts based upon what I've uploaded into the platform, audio, video, or a URL to a blog post. Really cool technology. But what it will also do is it'll take that audio and it'll create a transcript. And that transcript's about 95% accurate. I did an interview, you guys, with Haben Girma, who is the first deaf-blind graduate of Harvard Law School. Haben and I both spoke at a Clio event back in New Orleans a few years ago. And my wife and I had a chance to meet Haben and get to know each other. And we've stayed friends ever since. And we've done a couple shows together. But what I wanted to do with her interview is I wanted to walk my talk when it comes to the American Disabilities Act and when it comes to inclusion. And so what we did is we did a live Zoom video where what I shared over my mic was instantly transcribed at her end using a device that she uses. And then she would communicate to me just like Steve or Joel would in a Zoom. And so we had your typical Zoom for all intents and purposes. But then what we did is we took that Zoom audio and we used the technology I just discussed to create a written blog post so that would be available for inclusion purposes, and a couple of different transcript alternatives to allow people to access bits and pieces of the interview that they found useful or they might find interesting. So one of the things, Joel, I really like about everything we're talking about is the legal aspects and requirements of all the above. It seems to be changing weekly as these platforms roll out. The questions, the issues, right? And it's just, I think it's an exciting time to be a lawyer. Personally, I think this stuff's cool.
It's fascinating.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, not to say I'm not a lawyer, but I obviously, all of us involved in social are intertwined with all this.
Absolutely.
And, I guess I'm kind of curious. What drove that is I've worked with other transcription platforms, less for driving social, and just these days it's all over the place. The ability to convert voice back to text. I'm wondering though. Okay, so given all that, in the way Clubhouse works, where in a large room you might be pulling 50 people up to stage throughout the course of a room. You have to read a paragraph and a half to each of them and get a yes. I mean, how do you package the minimal amount to be able to get the right permissions so that you're all set?
Joel, that's such a great question. I wish I knew a good lawyer to get the answer. For you.
I had a hunch I might be in the right room for that. What do you think?
I think I could definitely handle it. You know what we've done? If you look at the bottom of my profile, everybody, and I encourage all professionals to do this, is at the bottom of my profile, there's a disclaimer that says no legal advice is being given here on the Clubhouse platform. And we're incorporating by reference all terms and conditions set forth in our disclaimer at streaming.lawyer/disclaimer. It gives me something I can blow up in front of a jury or put in front of a judge and let him or her know that disclaimer was there. We talked about it in the room. And that's what you want to give your lawyer, something that they can hold in their hand to show that you've done everything reasonable under the circumstances. I do feel that it would be very prudent to have a 2 or 3 sentence disclaimer like you're talking about, so that for larger rooms, you can just either rattle it off or get somebody to acknowledge Hey, Steve, did you read and review the disclaimer that I've shared all week long prior to this room going live? And it's a yes or no question. Yes, Mitch, I read it. Very well written. In fact, I want to hire your law firm to do one for me. And then we're good to go. So I'm thinking I want to keep it as simple as possible. I also want to balance the thoroughness of a disclaimer with what's going on in the room. If it's a room like this, I am absolutely not concerned whatsoever, ever. But if it's a room where you've got business leaders sharing complicated business advice that people may reasonably rely upon, I think that the more thorough we all are, the better. So you've already, Joel, given me a couple of things I want to think about, and I love it. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. What state are you in,
And
Joel?
by the way, just to be clear for both of us and for everybody listening, I wasn't asking for legal advice, nor did Mitch provide it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. It's funny how I've got friends that are lawyers where everything they say online, that's what they start and finish with, and I get that.
Yeah.
But I also think it's overkill. I think there's a reasonableness there where after 35 years of doing this, never been at the wrong end of a legal malpractice case. And I think it all comes down to being transparent. It comes down to, what applies offline with state bar rules, everyone, for the lawyers in the group. I think you'll agree, being truthful, not misleading the public, not sharing confidential information, whatever your unique state bar rules require. You just follow those rules online, and it's not rocket science.
Well, and I think that idea, by the way, I really do like that idea of the mixed voice and here's a reference. That you could in your profile, for instance, have it's equivalent of a model release, right? When you're going out and doing a photo shoot, you have something in your profile that says, okay, here's the information about stuff, and maybe just you keep resetting the room every few minutes or every 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever your schedule is, to say, hey, anybody who's hopping up on stage as a speaker, please make sure you've reviewed the bottom of my profile. I'll be asking you to agree to that before you open up your mic to talk.
Bingo. I really do feel it comes down to what's reasonable under the circumstances. And Steve, I actually brought up on my screen the documents that I think a lot of Clubhouse creators, online business owners, influencers, brand ambassadors probably need to add to their quiver. I am not creating these documents for clients. I have in the past and do represent a couple of the world's largest brand ambassadors, everybody, but it's just not something I enjoy doing when it comes to document preparation. But I do know what you guys need. And Steve, just because you were kind enough to bring up a couple of the documents, because you're in the industry, you understand how this works. Let me run down this list with you and let me know if there's anything that we should be highlighting or if there's something that jumps out at you that I'm missing. But for example, the documents that you guys need to be using are with number one, production, brand ambassador, or work agreements, just basically a master contract. Okay. Number two, location releases. Do you have permission to go live or to broadcast from somebody's office or their personal property, their personal premises? Number three, talent releases. Do you have a talent release for the talent that you're bringing onto your shows? Number four, video, podcast, and other content proposals and agreements. Number five, statement of work agreements. Number six, work for hire agreements. Number seven, non-disclosure agreements. Number eight, waivers of liability, indemnification, and assumption of risk clauses and agreements. Number nine, general crew member agreements. If you're using independent contractors, you guys, to do your lights, your audio, your video, you need to have a written understanding with respect to liability, with respect to scope and course, independent contractor versus employment. General crew member agreements are super important. And then one of the big issues we see here on Clubhouse are intellectual property violations, people using other people's content. So you want to definitely have a nice, clean cease and desist letter. You want to have a DMCA takedown notice. You want to update your force majeure clauses in your agreement so that they now take into consideration COVID-19 related language. If a conference creator wants you to fly across the country and keynote an event that you want to do, and then something like COVID hits, does that conference have the legal right to force you to do a virtual event, which maybe you're not as good on a Zoom as you are from the stage? It might diminish your brand. There's ways to create force majeure clauses to allow you to unilaterally opt out of situations that you don't want to be a part of. I think those are really important clauses in today's world. You want to have a jurisdiction and venue clause. You want to have attorney's fees clauses. And the reason those are important, you guys, is, for example, if you want a firm to represent you, but you don't have the funds to hire that firm, if you have a good, solid case against the other side and the damages are substantial, you may be able to get a firm involved that will defer their right to payment until they win the case for you. And then they bring what's called a motion for attorney's fees after the fact in front of the trial judge, and the trial judge will award that law firm its reasonable attorney's fees for services rendered. Without that provision, oftentimes, and depending on what state you're in, you may not have the right to make that motion. So they're awfully good. It's a good idea to have those in your agreements. The last two items are, you want to make sure your invoices are professionally prepared. What we've noticed over the years is a professional invoice gets paid faster than a Mickey Mouse email or text invoice. And then you want to have your business expense documents nice and clean, you guys. And the reason you want to do that is if you're planning on selling your company, if you're planning on selling your videos to Netflix or it's a series, they're going to be looking at your financials. And if you don't have all of these documents, T's crossed and I's dotted, especially the financial aspects, they're not even going to talk to you. I mean, it's critically important. I've had a lot of friends that are just amazing creators that are creating content like I've never seen before, but it's not marketable because oftentimes they don't have the rights to sell this content to the big production studios. So, Joel, I'm glad you brought that up because there's just a lot of documents people need to pay attention to. But as we circle back to what we're playing around with today, the question comes down to just make sure when you bring people on stage, you guys, to comply with the Clubhouse Terms of Service agreement that all of us are agreeing to follow as users of the Clubhouse platform. Just make sure you've got express consent from your speakers on stage. And oh my goodness, I think that would be a challenge, Joel and Steve, if your stages start to get big, if you're not staying on top of these things. I could see easily how something could slip through the crack. So you probably want to use this type of technology carefully and only under appropriate circumstances. This was fun. Joel, I'm so glad that we've met. I just followed you and it's nice to connect. I will follow you over on your socials, assuming they're down at the bottom of your profile. And I encourage everybody to do the same. Definitely look to your left and right, top and bottom, everybody. Definitely follow each other here on Clubhouse and then drop down and connect over on Instagram and Twitter. Great way to stay connected. If you liked what we were doing this evening, and let's see here, I'm going to invite Joel up, and you want to share tonight's broadcast with Joel. Did you bounce yourself down by mistake?
It's the hit the wrong button thing. Yeah, thanks.
I had a huge room. And I was a sole moderator, and I closed it by accident. And what I did is, we used to get notices. I don't know if we still are. I've kind of deactivated all my notices on this platform. There's just too many. But you get notices when you get invited into another room. And it's this green notice where it looked like I thought I was inviting somebody up on stage, but I ended up bouncing from the room down the room. So live and learn. So been there and done that, buddy. It happens. But what I was just going to say is everybody, let's stay connected. Let's stay connected on all the platforms. And when I'm done with this, the beauty of what we talked about, for example, those documents that I just whipped through super fast, I will be doing a blog post next week at streaming.lawyer on those documents. I'm not selling any of them. I just want to put the information out there in case any creators are interested. I'll share a few resources, some friends of mine that do these types of documents who I know, like, and trust. And you guys can reach out to them if you want them to do these documents for you. Or I'm going to share a couple of resources where you can actually use AI and a couple of other cloud-based services to do these documents for you in a very cost-effective fashion. But if you didn't write all these documents down, you can now go back when we're done to Twitter, Facebook, all across my socials, and this is now recorded. And you can listen to it almost like you would a podcast. In fact, I could actually take this audio and I could convert it into a podcast and put it over on the Mitch Jackson podcast if I wanted to. So that's all I'm trying to do is I'm just kicking the tires, trying to figure out different ways to keep this content moving forward without stepping on anybody's toes, without violating the terms of service agreement of Clubhouse or leaving a bad taste in everybody's mouth. And Steve and Joel, I think feedback from you, it's very much appreciated, but I think as long as there's full disclosure, you're upfront about it, everybody knows what's happening, I think that's probably the best way to avoid misunderstandings. What do you guys think?
I think the list of documents, you did move quickly through them, but I'm still trying to write down the name of the anchor, Mike, to make sure I get that. So the other 10 were a little overwhelming, but I will listen to the program when you post that later on. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. And, I'd like to add in actually just another idea for you, Mitch, is one of the other nice things about being able to record, I've found, is that sometimes you can create extracts afterwards as opposed to the whole thing or doing a blog post. The thought that's come to mind is, geez, maybe you could even take the two or three key items out of this, or sets of 2 or 3, and create a set of YouTube shorts or 60-second audio shorts or whatever as a different way of spreading stuff, since people's attention spans are relatively small these days. That seems to get some traction in some new ways.
That's gold, Joel. I love that. Yeah, I loved taking like some of my favorite clips from podcasts or videos and creating smaller clips and wrapping this room up tonight along those lines. And by the way, Steve, this is the Anchor Ultra Clear portable conference speakerphone. Go to my Amazon, Steve, go to my amazon.com/shop/Mitch Jackson page and pick it up. And I'll donate the commission to the Boys and Girls Club down here in San Juan Capistrano. How's that sound? Joel, one thing we're doing is we're taking these clips from hour-long podcasts. We're breaking them down into 5 or 10-minute clips. Then we're using sound, what's it called? Sound Me Up or Sound It Up, or hang on a second. It's a really cool platform you got.
Oh, there's a ton of tools you can use to,
Sound Up Now, soundupnow.com.
Oh, Sound Up. Yep.
Soundupnow.com.
Yep.
But the reason we're using that, everyone, if you're not familiar with it, is it then pushes to our Amazon Flash updates. So for those of you that have Amazon or Google Home, when you say, Alexa, play my news, Alexa, play my Flash update, that clip then gets played to anybody that's in your listening audience. And Alexa, stop. I just woke her up. And if you guys want to see what I knew that was going to happen. If you guys want to see how we're doing that, if you go to Mitch, M-I-T-C-H, my name, .today, Mitch.today, that'll take you over where you can subscribe to our updates. And Joel, you'll be proud to listen that I'm paying attention to you even before I heard you say that, because that's exactly what we're doing. People love it. They love the updates. They love the little clips, right?
Yeah.
And
So
go ahead.
I'm curious, for that to work, do you need to be like an influencer on the platform or something, or is it just, can anybody create these clips?
Anybody
for the Alexa updates.
Anybody can create the clips. So what we did a couple of years ago is we went into the Amazon Alexa platform and we opened up a profile. It didn't cost anything. It does take a little bit of work. I'm talking 15, 20, 30 minutes of clicking around. You set up your profile. And then what you do is you create your soundupnow.com account and you link the two. The SoundUp Now is something we're paying, probably $10, $20 a month, something like that. But that's your upload portal directly into your Amazon Flash updates. And it's kind of like uploading a podcast episode. It's clean, it's easy. Oh, but there's one more thing you're going to love, Joel. Everybody here, this is something that's huge. I did an interview with Roberto Blake, who's a YouTube expert, 3 or 4 years ago, you guys. And I was listening to the audio the other day, and it's even more relevant today than it's ever been. It's gold. Roberto just killed it in this interview. So Joel, what we did is we took 4 or 5, about 5 or 6 minute clips from that podcast interview, and created separate content on the different topics that Roberto shared for my mastermind. We then uploaded them into SoundUp Now and distributed them. This is over the past week and a half on the Amazon Flash updates. Now, the Flash updates, I believe, only last one day. When you update another update, then that's the next day. So they're, it's kind of like an Instagram story, Instagram reel, whatever. So,
sure.
But when you upload into soundupnow.com, what it allows you to do is within that platform, use Headliner to create a video audio clip of that clip that you can then take and distribute across social media. Okay. And so,
cool.
For example, for those of you that are creating your own content, you can't upload an audio into LinkedIn. You can't upload an audio into Facebook. You can't upload an audio into Twitter. You can upload a picture and you can upload a video. So what Headliner allows you to do, and it's part of the soundupnow.com service. I don't know if they purchased them or they have a license or something, but that little clip you can create, you put your picture in there, you can put some words on it so it's interesting. And then you can post it directly from SoundUp Now to all of your other social platforms, or you can download it to a folder on your hard drive, and then you can share it using either Agora Pulse or Lately or natively to all the platforms. So that's another thing I really like about that platform. I think SoundUp Now is pretty cool. So Joel, if you keep asking me questions, if you keep making comments, we're going to talk all night.
You keep asking me to ask questions, so I keep asking questions. It's fun.
Yeah, except here's the thing, you guys. A lot of you know I rode and raced motocross for 38 years, and tonight is Supercross. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're getting ready to twist the throttle in about 10 minutes out of, I think it's Salt Lake City. So I want to definitely jump on, and I've got the place to myself tonight, which allowed me to have the green light to do this. My wife's up in LA with my daughter, and they're doing some things with the dog up there. So I get the place to myself and play around. Steve, see, that's why I'm not in trouble, Steve. I get to do this when the cat's away, the mouse gets to play. And
awesome. Well, thanks very much for having me.
Understand.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, listen, you guys. Hey, Joel, it's great to meet you. Thanks for jumping up on stage. Steve, always good to see you, my friend. I can't wait to do some more projects with you. And for all of you here tonight in the room, thanks for playing along and let me kick the tires. If you do want to check out the quality of the audio after the fact, it is recorded on my platforms. If you go to mitch.social, that will take you over to a bunch of links where all my platforms are. Let me know, honestly. You can private message me if you don't want to say something publicly. But hey, Mitch, it sounds great, or it sounds like crap, or I don't even think you should be doing this. That's not what Clubhouse is designed for. I'm open to all the above, but I did want to play around with this and at least see how it works. Worst case scenario is this Anchor is a great speakerphone for those of us that have been using our iPhones for the last year. It's a great speaker for our desk, and the quality allows you to magnify the voice on what we normally hear on our iPhones, you guys, probably by 5 or 10. I mean, it really allows you to crank that voice up if your iPhone speaker is not loud enough. So the takeaway for me is, if this didn't work, I was going to use this just as a desktop speakerphone for my iPhone. And yeah, but it seems to work, so I'm happy. All right, you guys, listen. Thanks for stopping by. Let's stay connected. If anybody has any questions about anything any of us talked about, reach out to Steve, reach out to Joel, reach out to yours truly. And between now and the next room, you guys, do your best to try to enjoy the journey. I know it's tough right now, but let's do our best and make each day your masterpiece. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, and have a great race.
All right, you guys, we wrapped up and just closed down the Clubhouse room. I'm going to be going back and seeing how good the quality of this recording is, especially from my guest on stage this evening. Once again, thank you, Joel. Thank you, Steve, for being part of tonight's broadcast. My name is Mitch Jackson. Hang on, I've got a couple of questions here. All right, Seth Price of Blue Shark Digital tells me he was listening on Facebook. Sounds great on Facebook. Oh, Seth, thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate you sharing the comments. I did not have my comments activated. Alicia, checking this out across the platforms, and it's coming across very well. Thank you, Alicia Kinchlow out of Philadelphia, fantastic lawyer and entrepreneur. If you guys are looking for a gifted keynote speaker for your next event, whether it's virtual or in real life, hopefully, fingers crossed, that's going to happen soon. Reach out to Alicia Kinchlow, reach out to Seth Price, reach out to yours truly if you'd like their contact information, and I will put you in touch. All right, I am going to go watch Supercross. Hopefully it is tonight and it wasn't this afternoon, fingers crossed. But you guys take care, and let's stay connected on the socials. Bye-bye, everybody.